And this decline is basically happening because the daimyo families, the regional warrior families who ruled each province on behalf of the shogun, they basically got so much power and so much control of their own province that nobody listens to the shogun anymore. So you would have each daimyo clan only worrying about their own province, and each clan would fight each other for control of territory, to conquer a province, to conquer some land in a province. And the Ashikaga shogun wouldn't do anything. He couldn't and wouldn't stop them. So you would have two provinces going to war against each other and trying to control territory. And the central government, the shogun, does nothing about it. It's like California and Nevada go to war against each other, and the president doesn't do anything to stop them going to war for territory. Okay? So the Ashikaga shoguns are unable to control the daimyo clans, and some of this power struggle starts to leak into Kyoto. For example, one of the shoguns was assassinated in 1441, and his 7-year-old son Yoshimasa becomes a shogun at the age of 7. And Yoshimasa is famous not because of being a good shogun, but because he was a patron of the arts like Yoshimitsu. So remember the golden pavilion Yoshimitsu built? Yoshimasa says, I'm going to build a better one. I'm going to build the silver pavilion in the eastern part of Kyoto to beat the golden pavilion. And the silver pavilion is still there, but guess what? As you can see in the picture, it's not silver because they didn't have, they couldn't finish it. So they started to build it, but it never got finished. So it's wooden, and it's less glitzy than the golden pavilion, as you can see. It has more of a rustic look because they ran out of money. They couldn't finish it and make it silver, so it was left as is, wooden. But it has its own charm. You can go visit there as well. So Shogun Yoshimasa had zero interest in government. He lets the daimyo do whatever they want in their own province. So each province basically was very, very highly autonomous. They had a lot of power. They could do whatever they want. And so they would bicker internally within the same province, like family disputes, succession disputes, or with other provinces to get more land. And Yoshimasa and the shogun refused to mediate. So sometimes the provinces would go to Kyoto and say, please, shogun, help us solve this problem. Yoshimasa and the Ashikaga shoguns would say, no, we're not going to do anything. Handle it yourself. So Shogun Yoshimasa didn't have children for a long time. And for a while, people said, are you going to have any children? Who's going to be the next shogun? So Yoshimasa says, what, we need to, if something happens to me, I need to have somebody continue the family line. So he names his younger brother Yoshimi as his heir in 1464. So he says, okay, if I die, my younger brother will become shogun. But as luck would have it, the next year in 1465, the shogun Yoshimasa has a son. His name is Yoshihisa. Okay? So this leads to the Onin War of 1467 to 1477. It was a 10-year civil war, and this succession dispute creates the war. So it starts off as a succession dispute because some people wanted the shogun's brother, who was originally the heir, to become shogun. And Yoshimasa, the shogun, says, I want my son to be the shogun. Okay, and then the brother says, well, you told me I could be heir. Now just because you have a baby boy, he's going to become shogun. That's not fair. So a civil war begins. So you have some people fighting for the brother to be shogun and some people fighting for the son to be shogun. And during this whole process, the shogun Yoshimasa refuses to get involved. He goes to his silver pavilion and he basically engages in the arts. He doesn't really care about what happens to the country. Horrible, horrible leader. And this war lasts for 10 years. Kyoto is burned to the ground completely. All the old Shinden houses of the Heian period, all the old Heian period architecture is destroyed in the fires, and even the imperial palace is damaged. Okay. And this is a picture of the Onin War. It basically devastates Kyoto for 10 years. All over a silly succession dispute that could have been solved by Yoshimasa doing something as a leader. And three groups were the most badly impacted. The imperial family, they lose a lot of palaces. Their own main palace is damaged. The Kyoto aristocrats lose their mansions, lose their temples, lose their homes. and the Buddhist temples and monks. They lose architecture, treasures. It's a horrible situation in Kyoto. And finally, the war ends in 1477. Yoshimasa's son, that faction wins the war. So Yoshimasa's son, Yoshihisa, is declared the official heir of the Ashikaga shogunate. And when Yoshimasa dies in 1490, his son Yoshihisa becomes the next shogun. And he also becomes a terrible shogun because look what an example he had from his father, how to be a bad leader. So from 1490 to 1573, the Ashikaga shoguns are basically powerless. They're figureheads. They're not respected. People can't stand them because they're incompetent. They have no control over the provinces. So because there's no centralized government, the daimyo realize we're on our own. Okay, there's a shogun in Kyoto, there's an emperor, but they're not doing anything. So we just have to rule our own provinces by ourselves. We can't rely on the government for anything, so we just have to take care of our own provinces, each man for himself. So the daimyo just do whatever they want, and the provinces are basically controlling themselves. So the Onin War doesn't do anything. It doesn't really help the Ashikaga family. All it does is destroy Kyoto's traditional architecture. There is really no point to that horrible 10-year civil war. And it was all Ashikaga's fault.